Shouldn't have to say it. Everyone should know it. But when it comes to a hazmat response, speed and accuracy are everything.
Speed and power, baby. Let's go.
Speed and power. Clarkson Farm thing. Absolutely. Speed and accuracy. Now that's a 908 thing.
That's the little black box. And now, if you will, the little red box as well.
Yes, it's why hazmat teams all around the world are trusting 908 devices. Their handhelds like the MX908 and the Explorer IR are absolutely changing the game.
Right. The 90X is one of those few devices out there that can identify Novichokes.
Yep, absolutely. It can identify Novichokes. It can do all sorts of chemical warfare agents, pharmaceutical-based agents, drugs, and explosives. And here's the key. It does them all at trace levels, which is beyond mind-blowing.
That is awesome. And I also know that the Explorer can identify and quantify over 5,000 gases of vapors in seconds. That's going to change the game.
Yeah, it's why 908 Devices is being trusted by more and more hazmat teams around the world. You guys can check them out at 908devices.com and upgrade your metering toolbox today.
Here we are,
everybody.
Once again.
Time to sit around and chat hazmat.
Oh, episode 476, Hydrogen Sulfide Part 1. But before we get on with that, if you haven't subscribed to the Hazard Class podcast, you have to. And, as been promised for the last X amount of weeks, Industrial Strength is out as well.
Ooh, they launched.
They launched. They're 2 or 3 episodes in, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's, from a first responder, it's kind of good to hear hazmat from another side, especially if you have like a tremendous amount of industrial stuff in your area. What are these guys doing? What do they know? What do they like? How is their lingo? Is the things that we talk about common things? Maybe they do something completely differently because that's all this guy does is work with nitric acid, and he has a totally different way of working with it. It's always great to expand your horizons. Highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah,
guys.
They had some tools I've never even heard of, but yeah, tune in and get your own scoop on that thing. Make sure you're joining the monthly happy hour for your chance to win a scholarship to the Southernmost Hazmat Conference, which is going to be this 4th Thursday of every month, which I believe is the day after Christmas.
Yes, it's 26th.
I think 26. So get on there and check out the bookstore, the HazMat Guys and HMF swag. And we just launched Nerd 2. Get your copy today. It is all over our store. The Nerd 2 has been selling like hotcakes.
Yep. And from the moment you hear this, you're already past the point of no return on the Assistance to Firefighters grant. Sorry, guys. It closed the day that we released this. But our grant writers are eagerly awaiting the opening of other grants as they come out through the year. So if you need some help getting funding for training, guys, give us a call. We'll make sure that everything you need, you get.
What are we talking about today?
Today, we're kind of... I guess that the word of the year is deep dive, right? Everything's a deep dive. Ooh. But no, this got sparked from a phone call from a pal of ours who had his own interesting deep dive into hydrogen sulfide. And was basically like, somebody asked me a question in class and I didn't really know the answer, so I did a deep dive. And it was, how come hydrogen sulfide is on all of our primary meters? Like, everywhere you go, I teach in different places. He's like, everywhere I go, H2S is on their primary meter. What's the deal with that? So my answer was, well, it's an OSHA mandated, confined space gas that you have to check for. So everybody has it on their thing. And then he's like, why?
But why?
But why? And I'm like, you know what? I know it's bad shit. All right. But I don't necessarily know why. So we did the deep dive into hydrogen sulfide to learn more about it because it's one of the ones that we have to measure for. It's around quite frequently. So why not get into it a little bit?
I was always told it was because industry said so. Like, they're the majority buyers of the meters. And they say, well, we want it because we work in places that have the potential for that, and that's why we want. And then the fire department comes in and says, but we want this. They're like, you are like 2% of the sales of all these meters. You don't tell us what to do.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, OSHA definitely mandated, and it does make sense. Like when we dive into, the toxicity of this stuff, not only is it the toxicity, but the frequency. Like how easy it is for us, just as first responders, to come into contact this outside of the realm of industry. So it's good to know why we have it, and it's one of those heads up ones, that we really don't think too much about. But it is a highly toxic gas. And it comes out, we know it quite often as that rotten egg smell. So when we enter somewhere and we're like, holy shit, this smells like rotten eggs, you're generally dealing with a sulfide, and hydrogen sulfide is the easiest of the sulfides that are around there. So we're going to kind of do a detailed history of the H2S, the OSHA regulations that correspond with that, a case study here and there, and how this chemical impacts us if we didn't have meters and we were to get an overdose of it.
All right, then let's start with a little historical overview of the H2S, which is a environmental toxin. That's where it kind of came out back in the 1700s. It was invented. That whole chemical was invented in the 1700s. It's amazing.
it was invented in a bathroom.
And it was, George Washington. No, I'm joking. It's an Italian physician, Bernardino Ramazzini. Of the traveling Ramazzini brothers, he first described painful eye irritation and inflammation caused by a sewer gas from sewer workers, and that gas was later identified as hydrogen sulfide.
In 1977, a chemist, I am horrible with names, so I'm going to say, what do you think that is? Scheele?
Carl Wilhelm Scheele.
Scheele, I was close, made some significant contributions to hydrogen sulfide research when he treated ferrous sulfide, which is a mineral acid. He produced what was called Schwangenfalt or sulfur air. Some of these German names are just insane. I guess that would be Swedish name. But it was described as stink air. Oh, very, very, very defined. Could you imagine being a chemist in the days and you're like, well, it smells, so I'm going to call it smelly air. Like, there was so little to attach to.
And people are like, no problem. That sounds good.
Yeah, smelly air works. Yep, that's air that smells.
So now we're getting into the Industrial Revolution, and during the late 1800s, a series of accidents occurred in Paris due to gas emanating from sewer systems. You're picking up that it's constantly sewers. These incidents led to increased awareness of H2S toxicity and its presence in urban environments.
Yeah, so where does the OSHA regulation and the mandatory metering for this kind of come into play? Well, there's a couple of different reasons for it, and these reasons all come together like Voltron to create like a bigger reason, like this is why I should do it, right? But the first and foremost is H2S is highly toxic, second only to carbon monoxide as a cause of inhalation death throughout this country.
Actually, wow, and high concentrations can cause rapid unconsciousness and death within a few breaths.
It's extremely pervasive in industry, right? H2S is present in so many industrial settings. It's there if we're looking at the oil and gas industry. The agricultural industry has to deal with H2S, whether they're applying it or it's a byproduct of whatever it is that they're doing and mixing. And then wastewater treatment centers have to deal with H2S on a fairly regular basis.
Now enter OSHA. And they have their permissible exposure limits, which is directly tied to our toxicity, right? And the reason why we want to know these on our meters is because we want to know the lines where we're going to have to change PPE or take an action or whatever it is. And OSHA has established the following exposure limits for H2S. It's 10 parts per million for TWA and 15 parts per million for STEL. And the STL is kind of like where we live in the emergency services. Right?
Why?
Well, because it's depending on what you read, I've seen both numbers, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Right. And unless you're in the crappiest HazMat company in the world, you should be able to measure something relatively soon. So, it comes down to that whole time and dose thing. If I could do it quickly, then my dose can go higher. So the STL is higher than my TWA, which is usually 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week kind of thing. So I'd expect that.
I have with OSHA, I have a 20 part per million ceiling and a 50 part per million peak with a 10-minute exposure time. So when we look at these numbers, like those are unusually low, for the chemicals that we deal with. Like, I mean, you look at hazardous ammonia, chlorine, things like that. Even they aren't down in the 10. Well, chlorine's down in the 10 parts per million. But it's something that can occur. It doesn't take much to build up, and the fact that we're hearing it in industry as well as out in the open, like we can come across this fairly easily. I know we've smelt rotten eggs going into like dry traps. Right, so just walking into a house for an unusual odor, you're getting 5 or 6 parts per million of H2S hitting you from a backup of the sewers.
Let's talk about a couple of case studies. All right, one happened on December 11th, 2002, where a maintenance employee at Environmental Enterprises, that's the name of the company, a hazardous waste treatment company in Cincinnati, Ohio, was overcome when he inhaled hydrogen sulfide gas from a waste processing vessel. The incident highlighted the dangers of the H2S in waste treatment facilities.
So in the oil companies, they've not only had incidences on premise, but they've also had some off premises that have affected the public. In Texas, oil companies were releasing hydrogen sulfide into the communities near families and schools. In one case, in Odessa, Texas, a family was exposed to H2S levels 82 times the Texas limit for residential areas, right? Residential is going to be a little bit different than our OSHA regulations, but still, that's 82 times. That's pretty significant. It was an ongoing issue, and it highlighted the need for stricter regulations and monitoring within the oil and the gas industry.
Did you know that in 2022, there was 748 preventable HazMat incidents in the United States?
As a responder, your top priority is safety and efficiency, but without proper training, your team's competency could be at risk.
At the HazMat Guys, we bring you tens of thousands of hours of hands-on experience to elevate your team's skills. Our trainings are customized just for you using the best equipment and techniques out there.
3 simple steps. You could be transforming your team today. Call for a schedule a call, customize your training plan, and then begin the best in-class training available.
Right. Don't risk settling for instructors that only have theoretical risk-based knowledge. Secure your spots now. Our training slots for the upcoming quarter are seriously filling up. They're almost booked. As a bonus incentive, if you call us before the end of the year, you are going to get a free complimentary premium subscription for everybody that shows up to the class.
And we just launched Volume 2 of the Nerds HazMat Drill book, so check it out for 50 new training drills and keep your team up to shape.
And mark your calendars for February 3rd through the 5th, 2026, not 2025. Join us for the Southernmost HazMat Conference in beautiful Key West, Florida. Connect with industry experts, learn from the best in the field, and enhance your hazardous materials mojo.
So train differently. Speak differently. Train differently. Visit the HazmatGuys.com/hire us to book your customized training experience. While you're there, join our mailing list and stay up to date with the Southernmost Conference and all things that are HazMat Guys.
There was also another one in Odessa, the same freaking place. And this occurred October 26th in 2019. And this was at the Aghorn operating watershed station, resulting in tragic deaths of 2 people due to hydrogen sulfide exposure. Here, let's go into a little bit of the incident.
Yeah, so one of the guys, Jacob Dean, responded to the pump oil level alarm at the facility. While investigating the issue, he did not properly isolate the pump from the system, leading to a loss of contaminant of water that had trace amounts of H2S gas in it. He was then overcome by the toxic gases and fatally injured at the pump house.
And now, several hours later, Jacob's wife, Natalie Dean, became concerned when she couldn't reach her husband, so she drove to the water flood station with their 2 children, aged 6 and 9, to search for him. And Natalie left the kids in the car, entered the pump house, where she was exposed to the toxic H2S gas and was fatally injured.
Yeah, so the Chemical Safety Board investigated this one, and they did come up with a couple of things that kind of highlighted the issue. But now, as first responders, think about, we would just walk in, right? If Jacob for us came down as a person down in a pump house, would any one of our guys, firefighters, operations level, EMS, would they be grabbing any kind of meter to go in there with him? Like, we go to down people all the time, and we never think hazmat to begin with unless they get kind of nailed first. So what were some of the issues that the Chemical Safety Board investigation stirred up, Bob?
Well, they figured out that there was improper pump isolation. And that comes down to like the lockout tagout type thing, right? Where Jacob didn't correctly perform the lockout tagout procedure before working on that pump.
One of the other things that they noticed was that the pump house ventilation was insufficient to remove the toxic gases. So definitely something to think of as a hazmat technician coming into some place. We should, if a place is expected to be overrun by a toxic chemical, ammonia, H2S, pump houses like this, there should be some kind of adequate ventilation that we can kick on to help swap out the environment for our own safety.
They also had non-functioning H2S detection systems, and the facility's alarm was not operational at the time of the incident.
Yeah, so what is that? I mean, we talk all the time about bringing our own equipment. You walk into a place, don't just assume that, well, they have alarms, they're not going off, so clearly this is not the chemical that we're dealing with, because here is a facility without the right alarms. We would need to walk in with our stuff to know it. Some of the policies of the area, gates being left open and allowing people that were not part of the operation to come on board and walk into the pump house. You may absolutely come across a situation where there are a lot more victims than you initially anticipate, because people cross barrier lines, they cross gates, they are in places that they're not supposed to be. So all things to kind of think about as you respond to one of these alarms.
And sadly, his H2S detector was found in his truck and not on his person. And a lot of that comes down to just complacency. That's where, like, you need me looking over your stuff and I need you looking over my stuff to make sure that we all did it. Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of times where I left shit back in the rig and somebody grabbed it for me. Going in by yourself, right? He went in by himself. What are some of the safety issues with going into places that could be overcome by chemicals by yourself? Not notifying anybody of anything, not having your safety meters on. There's lots of things that we can do in the course of our everyday lives to prevent us from becoming one of these people, because you open up anything below ground and that could be an H2S environment. You go into some kind of a confined space, you can have an H2S. It's a product of decomposition, so it's around us everywhere, right? Emergency responders found that the H2S concentration near the pump was 150 parts per million, which completely would have exceeded their detector's capability. And the children in the vehicle were found conscious, right? And they were brought to safety. So don't go complaining to us about the kids and stuff like that. The kids were fine, but these two people, they were the ones that lost their lives.
Right, and if you put that 150 parts per million in relationship to the STEL of, 15? And the ceiling of, I think, 50? You're talking about some hefty stuff here. And again, when we were talking about that case study before where that company was dumping out 82 times the legal limit, this is a heavier than air gas. And so it's not like it's just going to float away. It's going to hang out with you.
Yeah, it chills.
It chills with you.
Chills.
It's like
which is where so much of the oil, these people, they're drilling in oil wells. They hit a methane pocket. Like H2S is prevalent in all of these wells. It's prevalent throughout. And this incident really highlights the importance of the safety protocol, right? Where if you're going in someplace, wear your meter. Don't trust other people's equipment. Make sure you're doing all the proper tag outs, all the lockouts. You want to make sure that the place you're going to work in is safe of chemicals, so bring your freaking meter with you. And honestly, don't trust anything that's supposed to be out there.
Right. And the U.S. Chemical Safety Board, the CSB, conducted a thorough investigation and released its final report on May 2021. That report included recommendations for Aghorn and similar companies to improve the safety of the watershed stations where potential exposure to dangerous levels of H2S exists. This is just common sense stuff.
So what does this stuff do when it gets into our body? Like, why is it so toxic to us?
Wow. That's a question of the agent. Well, the pathophysiology is actually kind of interesting, right? It acts as a direct acting metabolism poison, right? Primarily affecting the organs critically dependent on oxidative metabolism, such as the brain, the heart, and it inhibits all the cytochrome C oxidase in mitochondria, blocking the cellular respiration and energy production.
Right, because we all remember back in high school, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
That's the generator.
Kill the mitochondria, you kill the rest of the cell. H2S can cause severe respiratory tract inflammations at concentrations as low as 50 parts per million. At higher, pulmonary edema, that's when you get water in your lungs, and respiratory arrest can occur. And we're not talking far from 50 parts per million.
Right. And the nervous system. The exposure to this stuff can cause headaches, poor memory, tiredness, balance problems, and at higher concentrations, it can lead to loss of consciousness and long-term neurological deficits.
It can cause cardiac arrhythmias and cardiovascular events. This thing is definitely going for the heart if possible.
Right. And then you can have your eye effects. And eye irritation is very common. Tearing, burning, eye irritation of the cornea and conjunctiva.
You know, you can smell this stuff at about 300 parts per billion, which is less than a part per million. Yeah, the olfactory this is so toxic, right? You definitely think this is one of those gases that humans have evolved to be able to pick up on, especially since we would have evolved with this chemical, right? We've been pooing in the woods for thousands of years. We might as well know what a good safe place is. At about 50 to 100 parts per million, respiratory tract irritation, nausea, and some other symptoms pop up.
Now, at only 100 to 250, you get the olfactory paralysis, which is what do they call it? The olfactory fatigue.
Fatigue, yes. My senses are tired of smelling this.
Yeah. No, but like people go, oh, it's getting better because I don't smell it no more. And this is the point. Now, again, to correlate it to this guy, he was at 150. So I'm going to bet he was like, oh, geez, this stinks. Oh, it's getting better. I'm okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you think about it in terms of like, walking out of the bathroom in the firehouse, right? Somebody walks in behind you and they're like, oh my God, that's horrific. And you were just like, I was just in there for like 20 minutes. It wasn't that bad.
It's no big deal.
That's your olfactory fatigue kicking in.
Yeah. And if 500 or more, there's rapid unconsciousness, potential for long-term neurological deficits, and often fatal within a few minutes.
The sour gas is another name for your H2S, and it got its name because of that distinctive rotten eggs odor. And it's characterized by the presence of hydrogen sulfide in significant amounts. Now, significant is, we can say significant, and somebody might think, oh, that has to be like hundreds of parts per million. It doesn't. It's significant in terms of like how quickly this can kill you. Because if you can pick it up at 300 parts per billion, which is a third less than a part per million, but we've got concentrations of like PELs of 10 that we don't want to cross, that 0.3 parts per billion is not that far away from the toxic range of this chemical. So even though we can smell it before our PID or other meters will be able to pick it up, it's significant if you do smell it.
Now, the term sour is used to describe the natural gas containing notable levels of hydrogen sulfide. Now, that in contrast to natural gas with little or no hydrogen sulfide is required is sweet, right? So you have sour gas and then you have sweet gas. Sweet gas is the low hydrogen sulfide. Sour gas is high natural hydrogen sulfide. And the sour designation likely originated with the analogy to taste, where sour flavors are often associated with unpleasant or strong odors.
Yeah, and these, of course, these observations then were, seen again in the oil and gas world, where then they started taking on the more familiar terminology. And if you're working in the oil and the gas field, sour air or sour gas is something that is referred to quite frequently as hydrogen sulfide.
And to wrap up this first part, we're going to have hydrogen sulfide poses a significant challenge in the oil and gas industry, particularly in the transportation of these resources through pipelines, because it's just kind of part of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it's there, right? We need to know where it is. As first responders, we need to know where it is and where we're looking for. And pipelines and natural gas and things like that, we'll tie that all together in next time.
Love it.